Hi everyone, this is Steve from Homestrung Jewelry. In a video we did not too long ago, we showed you how to make these love knots, a wire bead, but on the same bracelet is a second bead, also using wire, and a more traditional round bead is what we call a caged bead. There's been some questions about this, and today we're going to show you two different ways to make the caged bead. To make the cage beads, first off you're going to need wire. We're going to be using a 20 gauge wire today in copper. You can use almost any wire that'll fit. We're also going to be using some 8mm beads. Of course you can use beads that are smaller and bigger. Today we've got some howlite and some really nice looking impression jasper here. Tools you're going to need. You're going to need a ruler of some sort. You're going to need cutters, of course. You're going to need round nose pliers. And then you're also going to need either a chain nose or a flat nose plier. In addition to that, we're going to need some sort of a permanent marker to mark the wire. And then also to clean the wire, we're going to use a little bit of steel wool. We're going to start with the easier of the two, which is the closed spiral bead. And for this, we're going to need 8 inches of wire. Again, this is 20 gauge wire. To begin with, we're going to take our steel wool and we're going to clean the wire with it. This removes any dirt, any oxides. You would do this with any, pure or alloy metal that's not coated with like an enamel. So this would work for copper, silver, German silver, bronzes, brasses. And after it's sufficiently cleaned, it also helps straighten it a little bit. We're going to take our ruler and the marker, and we're going to mark the middle of the wire. This is a 6-inch wire, so we're going to put a little mark right there at the 3-inch mark. Now we're going to take our round nose pliers, and with the very tip of the pliers holding the end of the wire, we're going to make a little loop. Just bring it around so it touches the end of the wire. Now you can just go on from here, but if you look at this, you'll see right there at the end of the wire there's kind of a little straight piece. And just to make this a little bit cleaner, I'll come in with my cutters and I will cut that one little piece off. It also angles the end of the wire a little bit, so that when we finish the loop, we'll bring the round nose pliers back. When we bring that loop back, it tends to form a more perfect circle. Now we're going to take either the chain nose pliers or the flat nose and just grab that loop, and we're going to begin coiling the wire. So you just grip it and push the wire around that central core. Just do it a little bit at a time. And you can do this as quickly or as slowly as you want to. And you just coil it until you get to that little mark. Now, of course, if you're using a bigger or a smaller bead, or if your loops at the end are bigger or smaller, you might want to change the length of the wire a tiny bit, but for the 8mm wire here, this works just fine. You see we're coming up on that mark. There we are. I went just a little bit too far. Now we're going to repeat the same thing over on the other end. Take the round nose pliers, the very tip of the pliers, and I like to make as small of a loop as possible, and I'm using my biggest pliers here to show you that almost anything will work. And we'll make the loop. And you don't have to do it all at one thing. You can slide it back a little bit if you need to. You can see the little flat area there. You can just continue on, or you can clean it up by cutting that little piece of wire off. Bring the round nose pliers back. Finish the loop. And we'll use the chain nose pliers this time just to show you that you can use either one. And then just begin coiling. And coil it until you get it all the way back to the center. And there we have it. We're coiled back to the middle. Now you notice that I don't have these exactly straight, and that's not a problem. It's wire. We can bend it. Okay, now holding the two ends, we want to just kind of complete the coils so that one coil is right over the top of the other. And at this point, it's actually kind of nice that they're a little bit apart, because we're going to take our pliers, and you can use either the chain nose or the round nose pliers, and I'm going to insert it right in the center of this coil, and I'm going to push it up a little bit. I'm going to use my fingernails to pull this so that we get kind of a shape that the bead will fit into. We're going to dome it up a little bit. Do the same thing over with the other coil. And you can take your fingernails and the pliers and you can work it out just a little bit. Kind of straighten it out, but you want to leave an opening there, because we're going to take the bead and we're going to just push that right into the center, and then I'm going to pull these coils down around the bead. We'll push the cap down a little bit. Now the neat thing about doing the closed spiral is you end up with kind of like a bead cap at each end of the bead. And I like to have a little space here in the middle so you can see the pretty bead that's in there as well. There, we've got it. Now the hole, of course, is not sitting right over the holes there. And that's easy to take care of with just a little piece of wire. You just kind of, you bring it around, work it up, and bring the wire down through that hole, and then you push it through the other side so that you line it up with the hole on the other side as well. And there we have our first caged bead. And this one's done with the closed spirals. Okay, a good example of some jewelry that uses the closed spiral was the bracelet that I showed you earlier. You see we got the little cap on the end, and you can see the bead underneath. This is an 8mm bead, just like the one we worked on. And another example is this bracelet here, which uses just a little 6mm bead and 22 gauge wire. And you can see we've kept this one really open so that you can see the goldstone beads underneath. And you can see the little cap on the end. And there's the bead in there. This is a fun project. If there's anyone who'd be interested in learning how to do this project, say something down in the comments below and we'll look at it as a future project. Now the other type of a cage bead uses an open spiral, and for this we're going to need 4 inches of wire to do the 8mm bead. Again, if you're doing a different size, you're going to need a little bit more or a little bit less. Again, we're going to clean the wire. And we clean the wire before we put the center mark on it, because cleaning the wire would take that center mark right off. Okay, again it's 4 inches. Take the permanent marker and we're going to mark it at the halfway point, which is 2 inches. Again, you might want to give it a couple of minutes to dry. Oh, this works pretty fast. As you can see the mark there in the middle. We put the mark there just to kind of give us a guide so that we use the same amount of wire on each side. And it washes off, comes off with like a fingernail polish remover, or it can be taken off with a steel wool. It's not going to be there forever. Now, just like when we did the closed spiral, on the open spiral, we are going to start with the tip of the round nose pliers, the end of the wire, and again we're going to make a little loop, and we're going to bring this loop all the way around and so that it touches the wire. Just like with the closed spiral, you have the option of taking that little piece of flat wire off, and you can see, we get this into focus, you can see how the end, I've actually cut that at a slight angle too, so that when we finish the loop, it comes in and it forms a circle. Now, an open spiral is a little different in that we're not going to sit and keep it in nice and tight, but we're going to hold the wire while holding on the end of the pliers, and we're just going to kind of push it into a spiral around that center, keeping in mind there's the mark, the center. We'll just take our fingers, we'll take the wire, and we're going to form a fairly tight spiral here in the middle. Just try to keep it somewhat consistent. And because we're using an 8mm bead, you want that outside diameter to be really close to the 8mm, but we can tighten it up when we put the bead in there. Just like before, we're going to do the same thing over on the other side. Grab the end of the wire. Make a tight loop. If you're obsessive like I am, you're going to cut off that little flat piece that will keep this from being round. Finish the loop. So it comes around and touch it. Now if you're doing open spirals, for other projects, you wouldn't necessarily close that loop, but for the bead you kind of need it so that you have something that will hold the wire or head pin or whatever it is you're going to use for for securing it into the necklace, bracelet, earrings, whatever you're going to do. So once again, we're going to hold that with the pliers, and then holding this a certain distance away, we're just going to naturally and organically, just twisting with one hand and pulling it around with the other, we're going to form this spiral. This one's going much better than the other one too. We got the two overlapping spirals. We just kind of take those and with our fingers we'll bring them in together. We'll open it up and we'll grab another bead. This time we'll use the impression jasper. Now this is a good time to show you something. You look at these two different beads. They're both, from the manufacturer, they say that they're 8mm beads, but if you look at it closely, you can see that the one, the howlite on this side looks slightly larger than the other, and you'll see this all the time, and so you're going to have to make adjustments in order to make the wires and the loops fit. But this is not an exact science out in the world of beads and things, so you just make it work. If you need to shorten the wire or lengthen it, or you need to expand the spirals a little bit, you do what you need to do. You do what you need to do in order to make it work. Okay, so between the two spirals, we push the bead in, and then we pull the spirals down around the bead. I just kind of use my fingernails to pinch it down in. And if you've got a lot of extra space, like we do right here, I will take my pliers and just kind of tighten it up a little bit, so that wire sits a little more tightly around the bead. Again, you can take a piece of wire and you can, with the open spiral, it's even easier. You can just take it around and bring it around till it's up close to that, to the top loop. Push the wire through, grab hold of that hole. Oops, we missed. Let's try again. There we go. We're in the hole on that side. Just push it through the other side. And again, we can twist it down, tighten it up a little bit. And there's our open spiral caged bead. Now this one, I like this one because rather than a cap, it actually seems to show the bead a little bit better, and you can see the underlying bead. An example of this is a necklace which we did a while back using these blue pearls. These are about a 6.5mm pearl, and we really wanted to show off the pearls, so we used 22 gauge wire, and Then we used an open spiral so that we'd really be able to see the bead that was underneath. This one's fun too because we used two different types of the love knots on this one. So there are our two different cage beads, all ready to put into a project. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy it, we would appreciate if you would hit the like button. Also, if you'd like to see future ones and be notified of other videos and training videos that we do, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification, and you'll be notified of the next training video which we do. We appreciate all of you, and thanks for watching.